I'll get us going. All right, good afternoon, everyone. This is the September 29th meeting of the Policy Committee. I am happy to have you all with us virtually. And if we have anybody online who is participating as a community member, there'll be an opportunity for public comment towards the end of the meeting. I wanted to begin, first of all, by just introducing, because it's a new school year, introducing the members of our school board, Mrs. Hubley and Ms. Hughes. Ms. Hubley is definitely not able to make it this evening. Ms. Hughes is tentative, and so we'll see if she's able to join us at any point. But I want to welcome board members Sean Jordan and Dr. Lee Aberly with us. Thank you very much for joining us. I also want to introduce our student representatives for this year. Juniors, Alec Gebb, Maya Keats, and Isabella McGuigan. So thank you all very much for joining us as well. And then we have administrators with us who will be identified as we move through the agenda based on each of the policies that we're looking at today. So we're going to begin with policy 102, academic standards. And Dr. Johnston, I'll turn it over to you. And I'm going to, when you're ready, I'll come off the screen after you've summarized and then go to the board docs document for the board members to see.
Sure. Good evening, everybody. I hope you are doing well. It's nice to see everyone as we get our school year started. As you know, any of you who have overlapped with academic affairs or listened to our academic affairs report, Pennsylvania Department of Education updated our STEELS standards, our science, technology, engineering, environmental literacy, and sustainability. It's a breath to say, standards a few years ago, and they were enacted to take effect and must be implemented in school districts by this year. Therefore, the Department of Education and PSBA are recommending that we update that our STEEL standards are being implemented in the policy, and that is the change to the academic standards. So it's in an overall example, not a lot of change to this policy, but we wanted to clarify. Dr. Yannicone.
Thank you. So I'm just going to quickly go to the draft policy 102. And you can see here, and this is in board docs, the items that Dr. Johnston has just mentioned are the only changes to this policy, just highlighting the STEELS standards and clarifying the areas of English language arts in reading, writing, speaking, and listening. Are there any questions about this policy? Yes, Maya.
Do you think you could just sort of define family and consumer sciences?
That's a great question, Maya, because we don't really offer much in the way of family and consumer sciences as separate electives. But this is a course of study that focuses on homemaking, essentially. And Dr. Johnson, you might want to expand on that, but it would be things like cooking classes, which we don't offer. But Dr. Johnson, why don't you continue?
Sure. There are some of the courses that we've integrated into other things. So when we do things on entrepreneurship, or when we do projects related to making informed choices or career exploration, or budgeting, any of the time that the way our school district has historically addressed those areas of study has been by integrating them in the curriculum in a variety of courses. So we've in some of the marketplace work that you might have done in elementary school, where you created a product and then you got other kids to buy it with money, was a part of integrating our consumer sciences, right? How do you be a good consumer? You have but so much money. How do I spend it? So at elementary, we've integrated it into sort of extra activities and learning opportunities in the classroom. As it moves up through the high school, that might be more diversified. And some of that's where the initial business department came from, right? Some of the personal finance and financial literacy, entrepreneurship, understanding how those fields of study work to inform my intersection. We are in conversations about how to enrich that program, which happens outside of the policy committee, on ways in which we might continue to evolve that and strengthen those opportunities for students to make real world comparisons and learning of those foundational skills. Dr. Yannicone, did I get it?
No, you did a much better job than I would have done. Thank you very much. Dr. Aberley, I see you've raised your hand.
Yeah, just to kind of follow up on what Dr. Johnson said, does that also include like some of like the community type tasks of daily living that's done in the special ed program would fall into that category as well? Because obviously that's not specifically called out in this policy, but I imagine it probably touches areas that. Okay, I see you nodding. So
sure. That's a part of our greater transition. So in special education services for the rest of the committee, we're at a certain age, beginning at age 14, we are responsible to plan for post-secondary transition. So thinking about if you are a student who receives special education services, what's the kind of schooling, vocational, or community experiences you're seeking to have? So in special education, we're actually more diligent about walking through that specifically, where I think in general education, it's a little bit more broad and just inferred or integrated into the core curriculum, where other districts might have a standalone program or standalone courses. Maya, did that help?
Oh yeah, definitely. I would say. I think like for family and consumer sciences, that's an overlooked like subject of class.
You and I are on the same page about that, Maya. So it's one of my torches I carry is to try to figure that out, to be more continue to be diligent in that area.
Thank you. So if I go back to our slides, the recommendation is to adopt that revised policy as you see in the draft. Is that okay with the board?
Yes, I am okay with it. Thank you.
All right, thank you both very much. So I'm going to move on. Also under Dr. Johnson is 105 curriculum. Dr. Johnson.
I saw it. I just couldn't make it go fast enough. Me again. So in Board Policy 105, this one is around curriculum. And one of the things that we've been advised to integrate is specific language coming out of the Department of Education, both the United States Department of Education and the State Department of Education, focusing on direct instruction on particular holidays and or events to help students be aware of things greater than sort of our day-to-day curriculum. So for example, Constitution Day and Citizenship Day, which we talk about, but the new requirements coming from the United States Department of Education is to provide direct instruction. That's one example. It comes up about Arbor Day. What exactly are we providing and teaching each child in our school district about for that day? So that could include announcements, special activities, presenters, or lesson to be taught and learned across the grade levels. And so this policy integrates those expectations that those special instruction or days of observance need to be provided in alignment with the Department of Education.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson. Other than that, everything you see with a green X, those were marked in the current policy. So there's no changes to the guidelines. It's really just that bolded section under special instruction observances. Mr. Jordan?
So one question is, my question would be, how does it align with, say, religious holidays?
That's a very good question. So it actually doesn't. Dr. Johnston, do you want to share a little bit about that?
Yeah, it doesn't align with religious holidays. While we can provide instruction on those days, it's not mandated under the Department of Education. And so while we're allowed to teach about a holiday and what it is, we don't educate for the holiday. So there's a sort of separation of church and state here that exists where we can talk about it and provide information, but we're not celebrating it per se within our schools. Does that help, Mr. Jordan?
Yes, so I do a follow-up question. So there are some holidays specific to some ethnic groups. What is it? I mean, I know I'm going down that path, but I just want to make sure, due to the new federal, I guess, directives, that we're we're following. We're doing what we need to do. That's all. That's my question. The line of questioning. That's all.
I think it's one that continues to be at the forefront of overall how we're providing our day-to-day curriculum and instruction. So I think it's a conversation that we can continue to have. And are there things that where we could be providing more information to students and families versus what are we integrating already in the curriculum because it comes up as a part of our study in this particular unit, it's already there. This policy is specific to our requirements under the Department of Education about these items, which in theory are all about helping students become better, more well-rounded citizens to understand their sort of civic opportunities. Citizenship Day, understanding where public education came from, understanding why it is we have school the way we have school, are parts of what they're asking us to add into our programming.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Dr. Aberly?
So I have a question about the days. So just the way that it's written and the way that I'm reading it, are Constitution Day and Citizenship Day the same thing? Or are they different things? I.e., should they be separated by a comma, or I'm trying to figure out if that's the same day or are they two separate days?
The U.S. Department of Education has joined those two things together.
Okay, so it's those two things packed into one day, potentially.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Isabella?
I was just wondering, how much would this vary between grade levels? How much would the level of information that students are getting would vary?
Sure. While we're obligated to provide all of these days, K to 12, one of the jobs that will come out of my office is helping to developmentally provide some guidelines to the building teachers and administrators on here's what we would expect you to master and understand it as a kindergartner or a first grader versus a sixth grader versus a high school student taking an AP government course, right? There's a range and variation of what we want to give access to all kids versus just some that make sense at a particular grade level. So once the policy sort of decisions have been made, then we'll take it to the next step, which is to plan for implementation.
Okay, are there any further questions on Policy 105? All right, so the recommendation that we'll ask Mr. Jordan and Dr. Aberly, are you okay with adopting the revisions as drafted?
Yes,
I am. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, I'm going to switch to interscholastic athletics, give Dr. Johnson a break for a moment. And this policy, Mr. Ferraro is here with us as our high school athletic director to support me in reviewing these recommended changes. So there are several changes that are worth taking a look at. First of all, PIAA bylaws have been modified over the last few months. The PIAA is the Pennsylvania Interscholastic Athletic Association. They govern the vast majority of the athletic programs that we offer at the middle and high school. And there are a few changes that they've asked us to update to come into alignment with the language in the PIAA bylaws. So one of them is that an eligibility requirement that instead of stating that students must be free from injury, that they need to be seen by a physician to ensure that there are no obvious illnesses or injuries that would place the student or others at enhanced risk of injury. And so it's a little bit of a broader definition from free from injury. And I think it's my understanding, and Mr. Ferraro, please feel free to jump in, that this is based on historical situations in recent years relative to the overall health of students. Is there anything, Mr. Ferraro, you would want to clarify about that?
No, I think that you summarized it well. This is something that we've been doing, right? Student athletes are required to get a physical by a physician before they participate in sports. So they're just changing some language.
Thank you. And then also underneath and within that same section, as you'll see when I shift to the policy itself, they are asking us to verify that all student athletes are covered by accident insurance. So historically, we have provided information to students, and that's what the current policy language says. But they want us to ensure that if a family does not have personal health insurance, that we provide them the information on the district's additional accident insurance that could be purchased. And I believe in all cases, Mr. Ferraro, they do in fact purchase that insurance.
Correct. Again, this is something that the PIAA physical requires. It requires families to provide health insurance or proof of health insurance coverage. And for the students that are not covered by health insurance, they have the ability to purchase our accident insurance through the school.
Thank you. And then the next change is that they've combined athletic handbooks and any other applicable handbooks. And the reason for that is student code of conduct and student handbooks can be separate from athletic handbooks. And they want to make sure that the eligibility section allows school districts to hold students accountable for the compliance to the student code of conduct as well as to the athletic handbook. The change of the word discipline standards to conduct standards is purely semantic as far as I'm concerned, but it is in alignment with PIAA bylaws. And then there's a whole off-campus conduct section that has been revised to refer to policy 218 student discipline. And that is because there have been several court cases where school districts have attempted to hold students accountable for off-campus conduct. And in some cases, those behaviors have been approved to be part of the scope of student supervision, district supervision. And in other cases, they have not. So they want us to come all under 218 student discipline to clarify that that's really where school districts should be looking to determine whether or not off-campus conduct is within the scope of the responsibility of the district. Mr. Ferraro, is there anything related to that section that you want to clarify?
Nope.
Okay. And then under delegation of responsibility, they've added the phrase in accordance with Title IX regulations because they want us to clarify and commit that we will follow Title IX. Now, that is referring to offering programs to both sexes in proportion with the district's enrollment. So in particular for our students who are on the committee, and also for board members who may not be familiar, every year Mr. Ferraro submits a report where he verifies our enrollment, male and female, and our enrollment in athletics. And there is a window, a narrow window of percentage where your enrollment in athletics must closely mirror your overall enrollment to ensure that you are providing opportunities, in particular, historically, for female students under the athletic program. Mr. Ferraro, is there anything related to that? And then Dr. Aberle, I do see your hand raised.
No, I just want to mention that, we, like you had mentioned, we submit that report, I submit that report on an annual basis. It asks for a lot of things, whether it's participation rates, financial information, coaching allocation, and so forth. And this past year, we were actually above the percentage. I think our high school was around 48% female, and we had about almost 50% representation in terms of our student athlete population. So we were actually overrepresented. So it was a nice little win for us.
Thank you. And that also addresses the next bullet, the third to last bullet, where they just changed the title from Athletic Opportunities Report to Male-Female Athletic Opportunities Report. And the federal government has asked us to do this because they have been very focused, in particular in the last 8 months, on the opportunities for female athletes. Dr. Aberle?
I wanted to ask a question about the insurance. Do we have examples of students that could potentially be excluded from participating because they can't, their families can't afford insurance?
That's a great question. Mr. Ferraro, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, so we do have families that are either uninsured or underinsured, and luckily for us, the student accident insurance that we offer through the school, there are a good amount of policy options. Some of those are relatively inexpensive for an annual premium, and in those cases, if there was a real financial hardship, they're as low as $30. So I think in those cases, we have kind of worked together as a team at the high school to make sure that those kids are still able to participate.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Absolutely, it's a great question. There are 2 new sections that I do also want to point out. One section is on name, image, and likeness. So it's an option for districts, but we would like to take advantage of that option. And you'll see in the language in a moment, it refers to the payment to players, to student athletes, at this point as young as 10th grade, I'm aware of, for commitment to Division I athletic programs. It allows us to hold those families and students accountable to notify the district if we have an amateur athlete who is receiving payment for a commitment to a Division I program. And I'll share a little bit more about that when we get into the actual policy. And then the last section is actually in flux right now, but I do think it's important that we get the language into the policy. Just last week, a court case was settled, and the PIAA announced to superintendents and to athletic directors that their bylaws will be changed by October 8th to allow students who are residents of the district, who are enrolled in faith-based schools, to participate in specific athletic opportunities that are not available at their home schools. So for example, students who are residents of Springfield Township who attend St. John's and are in 7th or 8th grade would have eligibility in athletic programs that St. John's CYO does not offer. Similarly, if a student were at a private high school, a faith-based high school like the Mount or LaSalle, and there was an athletic program not offered there, they would have eligibility to get involved in our athletic program. And I'll share some details of that when we get to the specific policy. The intention is that this will begin with the winter athletic season. And so we want to get the policy through 2 readings prior to the start of the winter season. And we'll just come under the wire with a first reading in October and a second reading in November. Mr. Jordan, I see your hand raised.
Yes, well, now I have 2 questions. One, could you define image and likeness?
Yes.
I just want to make sure I have a good understanding of what that means in terms
Absolutely.
of we providing that information. Like,
yes. So I'll go to that section in this draft policy. It's this section all in bold. And again, this is a new, completely new section of the policy. So name, image, and likeness essentially refers to any promotional materials that would include the name of a student athlete if they're essentially, in my view, under contract with a Division I athletic program, their image, meaning their face, or even a cartoon of their face, as is the case with some amateur athletes, and then likeness, anything that utilizes their face or their image. And we're not in a program where you would necessarily see a lot of this, but there are some big time high school programs with baseball, football, like where the big money is right now at Division I in NIL money, where students as young as 10th grade are making some significant income because they have made that commitment to the Division I program. Mr. Farrar, do you want to share some additional information on that?
Yeah, I'll give another example. There's a local high school in Bucks County, 6 or 7 years ago at this point, kind of right when NIL had first started to trickle into high schools. The athlete was a bowler, and the local bowling alley had offered her a contract to sponsor her as a bowler. She was like the #2 bowler in the nation at the time. And she effectively filmed commercials for the bowling alley in their t-shirts and their gear, and put it up on her social media accounts and tried to advertise for that alley. So something like that could happen here at the high school. If that does happen, the students are required to notify us. The PIAA has had some rules in place about the amount of money that those students are allowed to make during that time, how quickly they need to notify the school district of those contracts. So this just kind of codifies that language.
Okay, thank you. My next question was regarding the latter part where you talked about students who are eligible in our athletic programs, and I guess my question would be regarding liability. with
It's a
those
great,
students, from both ends. So where does delineation in that? I just want to make sure that, of course, if a student is not of our, well, they'll be in our district, but they don't attend our schools, but they're playing in our, in our programs. How does that delineate, and how does that work out, and the other way around as well?
understood, and it's a great question. We currently already accept homeschooled students, for example, in athletic programs. And that's been the case for a number of years. So our liability is the same as it is for every other student athlete in the context of interscholastic athletics. So whether it's being transported on a school bus to an athletic contest, whether it's injury on the field, our expectations for verifying their health and safety before they get onto the field, or onto the court or into the pool, all are the same as every other student athlete. So you can see here in green, and I do want to say that this entire policy, along with several others, have been closely assessed by our solicitor, our school district attorney, because there's some pretty significant changes here to the interscholastic athletic policy. And so the eligibility, PIAA eligibility requirements, and transportation all have been reviewed. This language all has been reviewed by our solicitor. And it is based on what has been determined as an order by the court to public school districts in the state of Pennsylvania with regard to faith-based school students who do not have that specific athletic program offered by their own district. So as an example, if St. John's has its own football program for 7th and 8th grade, then residents of Springfield Township who attend St. John's are not eligible for our 7th and 8th grade football program. They must play for St. John's. Mm-hmm. But if St. John's does not have its own wrestling program, then this winter, those students would be eligible to follow the same guidelines. They have to notify the athletic director in advance that they would like to try out. They have to demonstrate residency. They have to demonstrate eligibility with a physical, just the same as any other student athlete. So they're held to the same standards, including academic eligibility. Okay. The one area that I was concerned about was that that student doesn't count towards the public school's enrollment for PIAA classification purposes, nor does their faith-based school. So I was more concerned that we would now need to add St. John's enrollment in 7th and 8th grade to our middle school enrollment, and that might bump us into a higher classification, which would make us in a more competitive classification than perhaps was warranted. But that is not the case. The PIAA and the court have been very clear that the student enrollment, that doesn't count against us. But it does provide opportunity for students who are residents of the township, who do not have a particular athletic opportunity, to play for us. And we're happy to do that for students who don't have that opportunity just now, because we know the benefits of interscholastic athletics. They have to try out like everybody else. They have to earn a spot on a team that has cuts. They have to earn playing time like every other student. So they're not given preference, nor are they is it held against them. Just the same as we've been operating under homeschooled students for some time. Dr. Aberley, and then I see Maya and Isabella, you both have your hands raised as well. Dr. Aberley?
Hi, I have two questions. One related to the student image and likeness. Do we have any restrictions on them being able to film or photograph on school property?
It's a great question. We don't have anything specifically in here about not being able to film. We could certainly add language, or in our athletic handbook, we could add language to clarify that any filming on campus requires approval of the athletic director.
Yeah, that might be like worth, I don't know, like maybe Jeff Sultanic will give us some advice around that potentially, but just to kind of manage that expectation. And the second question I had relates to the part of the policy we've just been talking about. Do you see potential creep for like other areas, right? This is specifically covering athletics, but if we have a strings program and St. John's don't, do we see potential creep into other areas?
I think given the current mindset at the federal government level, as well as at a component of the state house, it is certainly possible that this could expand into extracurricular activities, such as the music program. I do see that potential.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. Maya?
So I'm just checking, but for the eligibility for students that go to other schools, do they have to be or like live in Springfield, or does it just matter if the school that they go to is in Springfield? Like
It's
I
a
think about
fantastic,
students at the Mount. Or
yeah, it's a fantastic question. So they must be a resident of the district where they want to play. So a student from Philmont Christian, for example, who lives in Philadelphia would apply to play in Philadelphia, even though the school is located in Springfield. So residency must be demonstrated before you can, and first residency, then you have to demonstrate that the home faith-based school, the school you're attending, does not have the program, and then you can get involved. Yep. Isabella?
So this is kind of going back a little bit, but it says that students must not have any obvious injuries or illnesses. How would you define that?
It's a great question, Isabella, because they haven't defined it for us. It's actually a question I asked our attorney because I don't know what they're thinking about specifically. But in our view, if the family physician signs off on the physical, then the student is good to go. And so we would consider that a matter between the physician and the family. Mr. Ferraro, is there anything else about that question that you want to address?
No, it's a great question. It's one that we asked ourselves, so it's great.
Thank you. All right, Alec, I see you have a question.
Yeah, so I just wanted to define the thing from earlier about another kid from like a different school coming to our athletic program. What if we didn't offer a program that some other school did? Like, would someone from our school be able to go there?
That's a great question, Alec. The current PIAA bylaws do not address that. So it may be something for Mr. Ferraro to follow up at his next athletic directors meeting.
Yeah, so currently the way that the bylaws are written is that you are only eligible at the school in which you attend. And then the caveat had always been, unless you're homeschooled or you attend a cyber charter school that does not offer the program, they added language in to include faith-based schools. So currently still, you are only eligible to participate in a sport in which you are enrolled. And then if you're a homeschooled student, or if you attend a cyber charter school, or you attend a faith-based school, you would be eligible at the school in which you reside within the boundaries.
Because I know there were kids concerned, and me too, about our boys lacrosse program. So if it were the case that our school wouldn't be able to offer one, is it possible for like me or my fellow teammates to play for another team, another school?
Yeah, only if you were enrolled in that school.
Got it.
Yes. So the goal, Alec, will be for us to recruit enough lacrosse players next year that we're good to go. That's what we're hoping for. All right. So great discussion. Are there any further questions? Otherwise, I'm going to bring us back to the recommendation that we adopt this policy with the changes as noted, with the note, Dr. Aberle, that Mr. Ferraro will look at the current handbook and see if we can add some language to your point.
Thanks.
Of course. Mr. Jordan and Dr. Aberle, are you okay with us to proceed?
Absolutely.
Yes, you are.
Thank you very much. All right, Dr. Johnson, you're back on policy 137.
Make my screen work this time. Hi, everybody. I'm back. One of the things that you may know is that my office, the Office of Teaching and Learning, and the Curriculum Office provides oversight for any school district resident who has chosen to homeschool and provide a home education to their child. We've known it as homeschooling in the past. One of the things that has happened is that we've continued to have more and more families following COVID be interested in home education. They appreciate and enjoy the flexibility that that program provides for they and their family. And so in doing that, we have run into a couple of hiccups in terms of our alignment in the policy with PDE's policy. And one of those is around the idea of acceptable documentation. In the past, we've had to have a signed affidavit, meaning that it's been notarized. But we are also able, under PDE's requirements, to provide an unsworn declaration or accept an unsworn declaration. And so there's some particular language that we want added to the policy to allow us to take one or the other. And then additionally, we are trying to be more consistent in gathering some of the other requirements under PDE, including immunization records or exemptions and health and medical services. As many students know, there are required time periods, usually 3rd, 7th, and 11th grade, for kindergarten, 3rd, 7th, and 11th grade, where particular physicals or dentals need to be completed. And we also need to have that for our home students who receive a home education. And so we just want to add that language to the policy. We've been doing it, but it hasn't been in the policy. And then the final big ask is that we add to the policy that all that documentation for the prior year and the approval from the evaluator be submitted to our offices by June 30th, and not sort of at an open-ended time frame. And so those are the 3 requests we're making to change and update the language in the policy. As evidenced, oops, not there, but down here. And I think if you scroll down, Dr. Yannicone, or up as, there we go, up as the case may be.
Apologies.
Sorry. So that the language is adding a section, which is right out of the PDE requirements for the health and dental screenings and documentation for immunizations or waiver of those immunizations. And then a form used by a school district that we would provide that's an unsworn declaration talking about their commitment to home education programming. Mr. Jordan.
So my question is regarding the documentation for homeschooling, and I guess with if it's unsworn, I guess I guess my question is regarding the path of unsworn, or should I say defining unsworn declaration. I mean, is it just a letter? Is it just I mean, you just because what happens is that a person, at least from my thought, a person can say or write a letter, but then someone says, "Well, I didn't say that." If you understand what I mean, as opposed to going through a more legalized, or should I say, a more legalized process, where in which the parties would have to agree that yes, that's you, and that and yes, you did agree to this.
So the unsworn declaration is basically the same exact document. It just isn't notarized. So it doesn't require a family to go find a notary to sign off on it, but they are authorizing that they have signed it under penalty of perjury that they can lie. So if we accept this, they are accepting the obligation that they're going to provide in alignment with homeschooling requirements.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Maya, I see your hand raised.
So I understand why you would need documentation for immunizations when going to school, but why is that required for homeschooling? If I could just know.
Yeah, it's a great question. I can infer why I think it's a good idea. I think it's one way that the Department of Education and the Department of Health are able to make sure that children are getting the care that they are entitled to. It's just one more check along the way, making sure children are developing well and healthy and getting the care that they need, at least at those minimum time periods.
Isabella?
So I know that at school, at least at the high school, we have flu shots. If homeschooled students aren't able to get the immunizations they need, would they be able to come to the high school and get their shots?
So the high school only administers by option of a parent that flu vaccine. Any other immunizations that children might get would get from their family doctor, from the county health organization, or one of the local pharmacies. So we would help connect them with places they could get them if they needed help, or how to document the waiver. But they usually do that in conjunction with their pediatrician or their primary physician.
Okay, so are there any other questions about 137, home education?
One quick question. Sorry. So in
Sure,
terms of immunization, is it I guess is it a requirement, or is it how do we monitor those who are homeschooled? I guess that's my, are they do we ask for their immunization documentation, or we just, okay, no problem.
They have to register when they register as a homeschooled student or a student receiving a home education program. There's components of the registration process that they complete, and this is one of the things that we ask them to submit along with that.
And is that done
process.
annually or? Okay, great. Thank you.
Or at the time in which it's due. So our school nurse has the opportunity to help review those registrations. Again, we're talking about maximum, usually 30 to 35 children every year. This isn't hundreds of children. And she reviews them. And so, for example, not every year, especially as children get older, do they need an immunization. So it's, do we have the most current immunizations on file?
Great. Thank you very much.
So does it also include the other screenings? I see the title says dental, but do they do, because I know that depending on the grade, the students will get eye exams, screening for scoliosis. Do those all get covered as well, or they're not a part of it? Okay.
They're not part of it. This is they have been seen by their physician and they've met the state required physical and dental care requirements, and those forms have been completed.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Johnson.
Sure.
So Dr. Arberly and Mr. Jordan, are you all right with this policy proceeding?
Yes.
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Okay, terrific. All right, we're going to move on to 209.2, diabetes management. And I'm going to turn things over to Dr. Lutz.
Thank you.
Michelle Lutz.
Yes. So last year, the PA legislature updated the PA school code. They now require districts to inform families about type 1 diabetes. So our district policy has been updated to reflect this requirement. We actually exceed the PA school code. If you check on our website since last year, we've posted our own fact sheet on our website along with the PA Department of Health fact sheet that they've provided to us. In addition, we make sure to share this information with all district families when we send out that annual notification school messenger that goes out every year just prior to this school year.
So you'll see in the policy, there's just this one bolded section that has been added. But as Dr. Lutz pointed out, we usually try to go above and beyond, and we do in this particular case. But this is pretty simple. This would be a one-read revision on the policy. Are there any questions? Okay, Dr. Arberly and Mr. Jordan, are you all right with us proceeding there?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Yes, me too.
Okay, it's a quick and easy one. All right, the next policy, policy 815.3, would be a new policy. I'll speak a little bit to this, and then I'll ask Mr. Brandon Lutz to share additional information. So as you know, last year we shifted to Zoom phones across the district in both our classrooms as well as in our offices in order to expand opportunities for virtual meetings with families, whether that's for an IEP meeting or a parent conference, consultation with a regional director, for a myriad of reasons, even internal meetings between members of the staff across different buildings, administrators from across the district. But we've had a question about text messaging, and we've taken a look at what are the legal requirements in order to utilize Zoom phones, because some of our staff members, our administrators, have now replaced their district phone, this is my district phone, with a Zoom phone. And so they no longer need to carry a district phone because they can do all of their text messaging, phone calling, and virtual meetings, as well as their email. All their communications can occur through their laptop. And so we did not have a text messaging privacy policy. And for students, this is specific to staff and to staffs when text messaging with students. And so we've drafted a text messaging privacy policy, which I'll then go and get in 815. And we've had it reviewed by our attorney. And our goal is to have this on our website so that our administrators who have Zoom phones can begin to text message again back and forth with colleagues. Currently, we cannot have them do that because we don't have a text messaging privacy policy that meets Zoom's requirements. So Mr. Lutz, why don't you enhance what I've just shared, any other information you feel is important to point out with regard to this draft policy. Unmute. It doesn't show that you're muted, but I'm not hearing you.
I can hear me now?
Yes.
Awesome. My computer is acting funny, so I switched devices, so I apologize. The key thing I wanted to say is that this is because of the Telephone Consumer Protection Act. Based on that, we have to make sure we're in compliance with the law.
Thank you. So again, this is a policy that is drafted not through PSBA, as is traditionally the case. This was district developed through Mr. Lutz's department and then reviewed by our solicitor, who has indicated that it is good to go. And so this will allow us, again, to come into alignment with the law. It will also allow us to utilize our Zoom phones in a way that we currently cannot. Dr. Aberle?
So does this just apply to staff members that have that Zoom account? It doesn't apply to anybody else that may be a staff member texting another student?
Mr. Lutz, do you want to speak to that?
So yeah, this is just on the Zoom phones that we have for staff. And right now there's a handful of staff that are using text messaging. It's covers them for when they send texts. So, it's really for the mass. We do more person to person. This is more like businesses will do like mass texting. So this privacy, it covers us for the mass texting, which we really don't do right now. But it just, under the law, they see us as a district, as a business. So we have to have this policy in place in order to fall in line with the law.
Okay, thanks.
So it would not, for example, students continue to be held to standards under the student discipline policy. So if they were text messaging with an adult, say a coach or a teacher or a club advisor, we do have policies that fall within that guidance. This specifically is really about adult to adult text messaging. Are there any other questions about this policy? And are you okay with us proceeding? This would be a 2-read because it is a brand new policy.
Yep, fine
Yes.
with me.
I'm okay. Great, thank you.
Okay. And then our final policy for today is policy 918, and I'll turn things back over to Dr. Lutz.
Thank you. So policy 918, which is the Title I Parent and Family Engagement Policy, has been updated to reflect the non-regulatory guidance that was provided by the United States Department of Education a little last school year, I should say. The district, we have updated our district and school document to comply with the guidance, and it will be attached to this policy in board docs. Prior to this guidance, the district already utilized a dated agenda and sign-in sheet, which is what this policy is calling for, in all Title I meetings, and will continue to do so.
So this is a fairly minor change. I do think this is a single read revision, but you'll see here what's checked was already checked. So providing language access services to families with limited English proficiency was already a part of the policy. We're continuing that. And then also under the continuous engagement of parents, everything that was checked is checked here was already checked on the existing policy. So essentially the only thing that we've changed are the attachments. And so those attachments are at the bottom of the policy. And let me see if I can just open one up for you. So essentially what Dr. Lutz has done is create these documents using the templates provided by the federal government to clarify the procedures under which we would be holding parent engagement meetings. And so these are new PDFs. But the content of them hasn't changed based on our practice. So we're not changing any of our practices. We're just updating the policy to comply with the federal guidance. Are there any questions about this policy? And are you all right with this policy proceeding?
Yes.
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Terrific. So those are all the policies we have for tonight. We just have 2 other slides. The first is just public comment. And Mr. Coughlin, I'll just ask you to confirm whether you see anyone with a hand raised in the gallery.
No, I don't see anybody with a hand raised.
Thank you very much. So we'll go to wrap up. Our next meeting is December 11th. And I will send out an invitation. You'll receive an invitation just as you did for this meeting. We have several policies under review right now based on some changes in federal and state guidance, as well as some internal changes we'd like to make. So 121 field trips, Dr. Johnson is working with our building principals to take a look at our field trip policy and seeing what we can do to tighten that up. 122 extracurricular activities is an existing policy, but the state has provided a division in the language and added 122.1 to differentiate between non-school sponsored student groups and school sponsored student groups, which would fall under 122. So we're taking a closer look at that right now. We'll be bringing you some information about that in December for discussion. And then 816 social media. There have been some updates to the law with regard to social media and the recommendations for staff under the use of social media, as well as students when they're representing their school. So for example, when they're in uniform or when they're on school grounds, etc. And so these will all be, I think, interesting topics, not only for the members of the committee, but also for our student representatives. And if you want to familiarize yourself with the current policy, you can take a look at those policies on Board Docs, which is on our website. Dr. Aberle?
Just the last one. Has that been drafted or whatever current form it's in line with the student image and likeness considerations as well?
It's a great question. We certainly can take a look at it to make sure
So there's no contradictions in there.
100%. We should make sure that 123 and 816 are aligned. No doubt. So thank you for the reminder. Any other questions or policies that you would ask us to take a look at prior to the next meeting?
No, not at this time.
Certainly, if something comes up for any member of the committee and you want us to take a look at a policy, don't hesitate to email me and we will look into it. So as you know, we try to schedule 3 or 4 meetings a year so we can take a look at what comes in from the state, what comes in from the federal government, and then just the natural course of our own experience and things we might like to tighten up. For example, policy 137 today. Okay. Right. I really appreciate everyone's participation and thank you very much to our new student representatives. You did a fantastic job. You asked great questions today. It's a value to have you on the committee. So thank you very much.
Dr. Yannick, and I was going to say the same. Thank you for the engagement of the students. It's always nice to hear their voices. So thank you. Appreciate that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Mr. Jordan, anything else?
Nope. Thank you, everyone, for your participation.
All right. Well, have a great day. And with that, we'll conclude the meeting. Mr. Coughlin, you can log us off.